Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to Puan Azril. My name is Muhammad ZULFIKFI Azril bin Muhammad NORZANYZAN. My matrix card number is A24A3551. The topic of which I'm going to present today is resistance to change. Let's get into a brief explanation of what resistance to change is. Resistance to change is the reluctance to adapt to new ways of thinking, process, or environments. It can occur in individuals, relationships, or organizations. Organizations can be labeled into two, one of them being overt and the second being overt. Overt is visible, while covert is invisible. So examples of overt resistance would be strikes, protests, or public confrontations, and while covert resistance, which is invisible resistance, can be more subtle. For example, through languages, actions, or even micro-resistance. Secondly, let's go into my viewpoint of resistance to change. So in my point of view, resistance to change is the process of change. So for changes to be made, the one making the change needs to be ready for the change and the consequences of the change. For me, resistance to change is something inevitable. People hate going out of their comfort zone, and if it is something that you have done repetitively, then it will become a habit. Habit is irregular actions controlled and often helpful. It usually arises from repetition, happen without any conscious thought. One of the best examples for this is when you're waking up and you immediately go search for your phone, or sleep very late because you're on your phone, showering in the morning, or brushing your teeth every time you're showering. And why it's become a habit? Because we deem it useful. We wake up immediately and check our phone is to check for the time, check if any messages happen that we need to know. We take a shower in the morning because we want to feel refreshed and smell good. We sleep very late sometimes because maybe there's a project that we need to complete. We brush our teeth every time we shower just because it's simply convenient. So, as you can see, repetitive actions that we do, especially during work, would create a habit, which would then become our routine. And when you suddenly have to change the routine for the betterment of the company, you would feel resistant to it. Thus, the reason resistance to change exists. Third, we come into examples. Let's say you're working 4 days a week, but suddenly the upper management decides to make it 5 days a week. Although some will be fine with it, there will be those who are unhappy with it. And when you're unhappy with it, we resist to it. We ourselves can relate to it. Let's say from when we are still in Sekolah Menengah, we go to school 5 days a week. It is a standard. What would happen when the government decides to change it to 6 days a week? Something simple is going to happen. Protest is going to appear in every single country and every single state. Whether it be your parents, your teachers, or your friends, or yourselves, you would resist to it. You will not be agreed to this change. And this is the perfect example of overt resistance. That is why the person involved and in charge of making changes needs to find ways to overcome this change. And another example that we can look into, let's say that you are working as a waiter in the J restaurants. You work in the night, so you can work focus studying in the morning and attend classes. But then suddenly, the manager decides to change your shifts to the morning. So you have to work during the day and effectively destroy your schedule that you have meticulously created. Of course you resist this change, right? Only insane and pushovers would going to accept it as is, then the next step of your action is to decide how to overcome this conflict of yours. Would it be to quit the company or talk to the upper management and negotiate with them? But most will choose the second option, simply because this option is scary. For to approach something that you label in your mind as someone superior to you would be scary for everyone. As for why most people will do other bold actions instead, like protesting, doing a strike, or even quit entirely. Next, we need to go find the ways to overcome change. And one of the ways and one of the important keys to overcome change or resistance to change is communication. Communication is a very important key to almost every problem you can find. So in an organizational settings, leaders have to possess the ability to communicate with your employees and also possess the ability to understand your employees. A company cannot run without its employees after all. To overcome resistance to change, managers have to take their input, discuss with them what's the problem they have with the change, and then make a proper judgment of what to do next. Or you could also negotiate with your employees. Try to come to an agreement to them so that they will be happy with it. Or if you do not agree to those two, you could also involve them in the change management plan. So if any change is made, they will not be able to resist to the change because they already come to an agreement when the change is being discussed. And then we look into advantages and disadvantages. Some of you already have questions in your mind. How come something negative such as resistance to change can be seen as something positive? How can it gives and creates advantages? Well, although resistance to change is something like negative, but it also can bring and create something positive. Example of this, when resistance to change happens, it encourages critical thinking in a company. It will also spark innovations for leaders to find ways how to overcome the change, how to overcome the problem of resistance to change. This would ensure that evaluation of change is good. It also helps to identify potential risks or unintended consequences. Then we look into disadvantages. Disadvantages is very obvious. One of them being productivity loss. When productivity loss happens, it is because they won't be able to work as effective as they used to. The reason simply because their mind is distraught. Because of the change that's happening around them, they won't be able to cope with the change, and this would weigh heavily in their mind, making them in distraught. This also would make sure that them won't be able to work as effective as they used to. One of the disadvantages is employee quitting or even hostility. So, in conclusion, change is inevitable, and the resistance to it is also the same. That is why it is important for leaders of an organization to learn and adapt how to settle this change and prevent the resistance of change from happening and escalating further. Only then can an organization improve. Thank you. Showering in the morning, or even brushing teeth while you're showering. Then questions emerge. Why this become a habit? Why is this called a habit? One of the reasons is because if it is something that we deem as useful, ah